Hello everyone. So today we'll look into a Python problem which is also a mini game which I named it as the game of guessing. It is a very famous problem actually. So let's quickly look what is the problem statement for it. So basically the user enters a number or guesses a number, let's say, and we specify in the code like you have to guess it in between 1 and 20, let's say, and the number which he or she has to get, let's say, is 80. And let's say in the first attempt the user gets it wrong. Let's say he or she guesses the number 5. So your code should say that the number is too small, and so user gets to know, okay, now I have to guess a number which is greater than 5. So let's say then in the next attempt the user enters a number 10. So again the code should specify that yeah, it is still smaller and you have to guess it a more. So let's say in the third attempt the user guesses 20. So the code should say now you have to guess it smaller. So now the user comes to know that he or she has to guess the number which is greater than 10 and less than 20. And to make the code more beautiful, we will do one thing: we will keep attempts so that the game gets over as well. So let's say we give the attempts 5, so the user has to guess it in 5 attempts, and if he or she is unable to do so, the game should get over and should not continue till infinity. So let's say we declare a variable a which stores a value 80 which the user has to guess, and let's say the attempt is 5. I'll declare a variable attempt only to avoid confusion, and we can add more beauty to the code by suggesting that you have guessed it in x attempts. Let's say if the user gets it in second attempt, so the code should specify that congratulations, you have guessed the number right in x attempts. Let's say x can be anything between 1 and 5. So we'll also declare a variable x or initialize it to 0, and we'll obviously use a loop, whether it is for loop or while loop, because we have to continuously take inputs from the user until he or she gets it right. So let's say the attempt is greater than equal to 1. Basically we have 5 attempts, right? So the loop should continue until the attempts get 0. We can also write here greater than equal to 0 or greater than equal to 1. It is one and the same thing. So yeah, so while entering the loop, let's say the first case which we take is if let me zoom it a bit for you so that you can see it more clearly. Yeah, so if the input given by the user is equal to a, and we forgot to take the input from the user only, so let's quickly do that. And let's say, yeah, so we have taken the input, and let's say if I is equal to a, the first case, that is the user gets it right, so it should print that congrats, you have guessed it right, like things like that. So let's quickly write this thing. It is a mere formality, you can say. Congrats, you have guessed it right. Okay, so as I said, we can add more beauty to the code by giving the output like you have guessed it right in this much attempt. That's why we have initialized the x as 0. So what we can do is, while we enter the loop, we'll increment the value of x each time the loop repeats itself. So that we can mention here, and we'll write congrats, you have guessed it right in X attempts. Okay, these are the extra white spaces I can avoid. Yeah, so congrats, you have guessed it in this many attempts. Okay, great. And also the attempt should decrease each time the loop repeats itself, right? So what we can do, okay, we'll mention that in the another case, but what we'll do here is that if the user gets it right, we'll break out of the loop, right? Because yeah, he or she guessed it right. So the next case would be, let's say, if I is greater than a. Let's say if the user inputs a number which is greater than the number which he or she is supposed to guess. So in that case, we'll print um, the number is greater. And as I said, in other cases we have to decrease the attempt as well, right? Because above here we have initialized the attempt to 5. So each time the loops repeat itself, so the attempt should decrease. So what we'll do, attempt is equal to attempt minus 1. We can also write attempt minus equal to 1, one and the same thing. And let's say the other case will be, obviously, I is less than a. In that case, the code will print the number is smaller. It means here the value of I is smaller than the value you have to guess. And here, as I is greater than a, so it prints the number is greater, means the user will think, okay, I guessed it a bit greater, now I have to decrease the number in the next attempt. So like that. And one more thing, as I said, the game should print uh, attempts as well. So here we'll also decrease the attempts value by 1 in the case where the user is unable to guess it right. Okay, so also as I mentioned that the game should print game over, right, each time it ends. And as we have written break here, so that is good. But one thing, we'll write if attempt is equal to 0, then only print game over. See, I'll explain it now. Because what will happen if the user guesses in the range of 5 attempts, like if the user guesses in first attempt, second or third or fourth, it will break, right? And after breaking, if we don't specify this, it will again print game over, so there's no point to it. So after breaking or after doing the whole loop thing, again there should be a case like if the attempt is equal to 0, then only print game over, otherwise just end the code, you can say. Okay, so let's check once by running the code to see that if we are not facing some error. I know the code is still remaining, but let's check once that uh, what we are doing is right or not. Okay, so I have specified a print statement here, printing that guess a number between 1 and 20 in 5 attempts, so that the user gets to know like what he or she has to do. So we'll run again. Okay, now it says we'll also put a \n. Okay, so let's guess a number like 5. Let's say what it says. Yeah, correct, we are doing it great. So it says the number is smaller. Now we come to know that it is smaller, right? Now we have to guess a number which is greater than 5. So let's say we guess it as 10. So it says again the number is smaller. Let's say if we guess a number greater than 18. I mean the user of course does not know it is greater than 18, but we are writing the code, so we know that it should print what it should print. It should print the number is greater. Let's say if it prints or not. Yeah, it surely does print the number is greater. Okay, so we are doing good here. Okay, I have forgot also to add the attempts, right? Because we are uh, decreasing the attempts each time by 1, so we have to specify it also. So what we can do is we can print here the attempts remaining are attempts. We have declared the variable attempts only. Let's put a colon here, and here we also do the same thing in this case also. So I'll copy it as I'm too lazy. So yeah, now it should print that you have this many attempts remaining, and we have used x here, right? Okay, so x is here for printing that you have guessed it in this many attempts. Okay, so we have used x and attempt as well. Let's run our code once again to see the changes we have made. Let's say I enter 5. Yeah, great. So first it prints the number is smaller, and then it prints the attempts remaining are 4. That's really great. So let's say I print I give input as 10. Great. The attempts remaining are 3 now. So it is decrementing by 1. The statement which I have written here, that's the meaning of this. And let's keep on entering wrong values to check whether the game gets over or not. Let's say just a second, I input 5. Okay, so what it says, we have faced an error. Okay, so it says invalid. Okay, I by mistakenly gave the input as space. Okay, never mind, we have done nothing wrong. So let's say 5, again 5, again 5, again 5. See, you can see the attempts are decrementing by 1. Let's say if I press again 5, game gets over or not? Yes, it sure does. It says the attempts remaining are 0 and the game is over for you. And let's also check if we can guess the number right, like what it prints. Like if I have guessed it in first time only. So it says congrats, you have guessed it in 1 attempt. That's really great. Here is a bit of grammatical error, but never mind. Let's say I have given the input as 16. So it says the number is smaller. Okay, now I come to know that I have to give a input which is greater than 16, and by this statement I come to know that the limit is 20, right? And here it says the number is smaller, means I have to guess a number which is greater than 16 and less than 20. So let's say now I guess it as 18. So it should say congrats, you have guessed it in 2 attempts. That's really great because we have written here x attempts. So, and what we did is we are incrementing the value of x each time we enter the loop. So in the second iteration, the x's value is 2 and here it prints in 2 attempts. That's really great. I guess we are good to go in the code. Just that you can beautify the code more. That's up to you, right? Like you can give more appealing statements or whatever. But the logic behind the game is this only. Yeah, so this is basically the way you always should, keep on running your code to see, like bit by bit. Like don't just write the code. Yeah, I mean keep on writing the code indefinitely. You should check while running also. Let me give spaces here so that the code looks more good. Mm, yeah. So here's the code. I'll quickly go through again so that you come to know what we have done. Okay, so what we did, that we have to make the user guess the number 18, right? So we have declared here a is equal to 18. Okay, and we also specified that you have to guess it in 5 attempts. So I declared a variable attempt only and gave the value 5. Okay, so what is the role of x here? I'll repeat again. What is the role of x here? X is here basically to say that you have guessed it in this many attempts. Like if the user first guesses it wrong, in the second attempt he or she also guesses it wrong, and in the third attempt the user cracks it. So the code should say that you have guessed it in 3 attempts. Am I right? So that 3 uh, should get stored in the value of x. And that is why we are incrementing the value of x each time we enter the loop, and that is why we are using x here in this many attempts, that is in 3 attempts. Okay, now this print statement is only to notify the user that you have to guess the number between 1 and 25 times. Okay, and backslash n is for the new line character. Okay, and as I have told you, we are incrementing the value of x each time the loop repeats itself or the user guesses it again. And this statement means we are inputting from the user. Okay, one doubt should come in your mind, that why input is here and why not above the while loop? Because we have to keep on getting input from the user until the user gets it right? So that is why putting the input statement inside the while loop, so that until he or she gets it right, the user should keep on inputting the number. Okay, now we have created the cases. Okay, this part of the code is for the cases. Okay, like what should be the cases? You have to think. First case should be the user gets it right. It's simple. So I is equal to a. What can be the second case? That the user kind of guesses it higher or greater than the value it should guess. So I greater than a. The third case similar should be I is less than k. These only three cases are possible. Am I right? So if I is equal to a, it should print congrats, you have guessed it in right in this many attempts. Okay, then we have used the break statement here. Why? Because if we don't use the break statement, it will continue the loop and will take the input from the user again. So there is no point in it. So we broke from the loop because the game is over, right? Over in the sense like the user guessed it right. Okay, so the second statement says that I is greater than a, means the number which you have guessed is greater. So think it lesser in the next attempt. And what we did here is that we have initialized attempt to 5, right? So we are decrementing attempt each time by 1. Each time the loop gets iterated. Okay, and we are using this attempt variable which we have declared. So the attempts remaining are this attempt. Okay, right? We have decremented the value of attempt, right? Means from 5 it became 4. So it will store here. Similarly, in the next case, basically these two cases are very similar. So the number is smaller and here it is greater. Again, we have to decrement the value of attempt by 1, and again the attempts remaining are attempt, one and the same. And what we did here is, okay, fine. Let me show you by not writing this. Let's see what happens. You'll get to know. Now, if I run the code and let's say I guess, let's say first I guess it wrong, 5. Okay. Here it is fine. The number is smaller, the attempts remaining are 4. Good to go. But once I have guessed it right, let's say 18. Now the code should get over, right? But now it will print game over. Let's see. See, first it congratulated me as I've written the print statement here. But now it says game over, which it should not, right? So why it prints? Because we broke from the loop and after breaking it comes here. And we have commanded it to get print. So that is why it prints game over. That is why we specified a case in which if the attempt is equal to 0, then only print game over. Now let's run again. And first let's give the wrong input. And let's say we give the right input. See, now it does not print game over because after exiting the loop, the attempt is not 0. That is why it will not print game over and it will come here. Basically, it will end the code. So let's test more. What we can say? Let's say 6. The number is smaller. Okay, now I have to guess it a bit greater. Let's say 11. Okay, the number is still smaller and the attempts are decreasing, you can see. And let's say I inputted 20. It should say greater and it says the number is greater and the attempts remaining are 2. Let's say I guess it's 17. Okay, I by mistakenly pressed the space. I'm really sorry. I should give the integer. So 5, 5, 6. Okay, yeah. So 17. So the number is still smaller and the attempts remaining are 1. Now if I don't guess it right, the game would be over. So, and it indeed gets over. And let's say I guess it in first attempt only, 18. So it should say congrats, you have guessed it in one attempt. Let me make it grammatically more correct. Let me write attempt slash attempts. Whatever, if it is 1, it will be attempt only and not attempts. Yeah. So basically this was the logic behind the code. You can obviously make the code more beautiful by adding whatever features you like, whatever statements you want to give. But basically this was the logic of the code. So hope you understood. If you did not, please put your doubts in the comment section and I'll surely reply to you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.